Good morning, everybody. Right, it's Sunday morning and it is finally my 6 month update. Honestly, I can't believe how fast this has gone. 6 months has just absolutely whizzed by. But firstly, if you're returning and you've been with me from day dot, thank you so much. This channel's really beginning to grow a little bit, and the support that's going on is fantastic. So please keep supporting. If you're new here and you've only just found this, welcome, firstly. I'd love you to like and subscribe. Stay with me on the channel. I do updates every single week. I always do a weight update, and I'm also trying to do some hints and tips and things that I've learned in the last 6 months over my journey from what I've gone through and also from what I've researched. By no means am I a medical professional. I just like to read. I like to look at studies, and I've tried to educate myself when it comes to GLP-1s in general, specifically tirzepatide and Mounjaro. So if you're thinking about it or you've just started, then by all means come along for the latter part of my journey. But hopefully there's some hints and tips in there that can help. Right, I'm going to do a little bit of my background. I'm not going to go into it too much. If you want to know more, there are previous vlogs. My very first introduction one goes through my history, and there's also one specifically around my diabetes. But I'm just going to give a very small snippet of my background. But what I want to do for this particular vlog is go over my stats from the beginning to the end, what I am now, what I started, and all the figures. So I appreciate the figures are not for everybody. So by all means, skip ahead. I will be giving a little bit of an update as to what my plans are going forward. So, but there will be a lot of stats. So pre-warned. Okay, right. Very, very briefly, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes 5 years ago, and it's pretty much 5 years to the day. It was June 2020, middle of lockdown. Diagnosed with type 2 diabetic, put onto diabetic medication, basically told losing weight. At that point when I started, when I was diagnosed, I was 15 stone. For reference, I'm 5'1", so that's 210 pounds, 95.5 kilos, nearly the 100k, and my BMI was 39.7. So, and that weight had been creeping up pretty much all my adult life. From my mid-20s, it just slowly kept creeping up, until I got to this point. So I was put onto basic medication, diabetic medication. I like everybody, I was invigorated to lose some weight, started to lose a little bit. And over those few years, up until summer of last year, 2024, I have managed to lose around 40 pounds. So, and that was done purely through diet, along with the diabetic medication, because some of them can help to lose weight as well. But it was mainly diet, a little bit of exercise. I say a little bit, it was literally going out for a bit of a walk occasionally, because I was in no fit state to do anything else, or at least I thought at that point. So I every year, as we all do, started a diet. I'd lose a few pounds, managed to lose a more significant amount, and then the diet would stop, but I'd maintain most of that loss. I might put on a few more pounds. So over 4 years or so, I've managed to drop 40 pounds, which was good. That brought me down to around the 12 stone-ish by summer of last year. But it wasn't shifting after that. I was still stuck, and still stuck with quite a high BMI. I was still in the 30s, I believe. Sorry if I'm looking down, I have got notes because there's a lot of figures. So I believe my BMI at that point was around 33-ish. So over these 4 years and on diabetic medication, I started to research GLP-1s. I was having some real issues with being on metformin, which is one of the main diabetic drugs. It was causing me some real gastric issues, to the point that I just didn't want to take it anymore. It was doing a number on me. So I started researching other options. I was actually initially started off looking at intermittent fasting, which I did start doing, and I sort of keep to as to this day realistically. But along that journey and that research, I came across GLP-1s. There weren't very many UK users at the time, but I was watching the American versions, and they're literally a couple of years ahead of us, realistically. You know, there's people that have been on that now for well over 2 years in the States. So anyway, I eventually went to the GP, and after a little bit of toing and froing, I was actually prescribed it. So I don't pay for my Mounjaro. I am prescribed it on the NHS. I would say I'm lucky in that sense, but then I am also type 2 diabetic, so not so lucky. But I started my first injection. I got my prescription and I started at the very end of November. So I think it was the 28th of November that I took my first jab. So I've actually finished my week 27, but pretty much to the day it's at 6 months. I started at, where are we? £169. That's 12 stone and 1 pound, 76.8 kilos. So that was my starting point on Mounjaro, having previously already lost that around 40 pounds. I basically then started my Mounjaro journey, started following a lot of the UK guys that were now vlogging, which was really helpful. I didn't start vlogging myself until I think the beginning of March of this year. Now there's plenty of videos. I've done one every week. I've done my backstory, so please feel free to go back through the playlists. It's all there. So if you are starting, there is some starting information on them as well. But today, like I said, is my 6-month anniversary, calendar anniversary as such. So I'm going to go over some stats. So beginning weight, where I am now, and some comparisons. And I've also did my measurements as well. The one thing I would say is, you know, if you are starting or you're even just thinking about it, take some measurements. Take your body measurements and also take some photos, because that will come in so handy 6 months down the line into your journey. Right, okay, I am going to read some stats. So my starting weight was £169 and my BMI was 33, give or take. I think it was 32. Right, my body fat, now I'm going to pop up a chart with all my stats in and the two comparisons so you can follow it through. I might as well tell you what I've actually lost. I'm not going to make you wait till the end. Today, when I got onto the scales today, I weighed 138.6 pounds. I have finally gone under the 140, which was my big goal, but it's not my final goal. 140 is 10 stone, so I've just clicked under. So I'm now 9 stone, 12.6 pounds, which is 63k. I remember going over 10, and that was in my mid 20s, and I remember that scale clicking over 10. But now it's fantastic, just that it's gone the other way, and now it's clicking under 10. It's not the end of my journey. I've still, like I said, I am only 5'1". I am short. 10 stone is still overweight for me. I'm spat bang in the middle of the overweight category now. So I still have I would say at least a stone to go, maybe a stone and a half, but I'm not fixed on the number. It is down to how I feel. Honestly, the way I am now, I'm happy to an extent. I feel happy. I'm going to the gym. I'm getting more exercise. I'm much more energetic in that sense. But I do feel I've still got some pockets of, I've still got the belly. I've still got some pockets of stubborn fat that still need to go. But anyway, like I said, I am now a further £30 down from my original weight. And from starting Mounjaro, that's actually given me a loss in that 6 months of around 20% of my body weight. I think it's 18 point something, but I'll pop the stats up here from my Shotzi app, which gives a percentage of my body fat that's been lost. Mounjaro, apparently you're supposed to be able to lose up to around 23% body fat within the 6 months. Now, that was done on a study with people titrating all the way up to 15 within that 6 months period. I've not done that. I've stayed on 7.5. My weight has been slower, but it is also the tail end of my weight loss. If I'd have started with the 70 pounds to lose, then maybe it would have come off a bit faster, at least at the beginning anyway. But, you start where you start. I had already lost that 40 pounds myself. So, right, let's get some comparisons. So originally started at 169, I am now 138 pounds. My BMI originally when I started was 32.3, and my BMI now is 26.5. So I'm getting there. I'm still, like I said, still in the middle of the overweight category. Now, I use a digital scale, which most of us do now, which also measures body fat, muscle mass, all those. Now, I don't fix on the number for those because I don't believe that those scales are accurate. The only way you're going to get an accurate-ish reading is to go through the whole DEXA scan. But I find them a really good trend. So if you don't take the number literally, but just look at the direction of travel. So my body fat, according to my scale at that point, was 41.5 when I started Mounjaro, which is a lot. My body fat today is 32.5. So I've lost a significant amount percentage-wise of my body fat, which is fantastic. Now, for a female, we're supposed to be around between 25 and 30% body fat. Now, we have, lady lumps that contain fat. We're supposed to be a percentage of body fat. So to be heading towards that 30% for me is fantastic. So it also measures my muscle, bone mass and total lean mass. Now, the total lean mass is just the other two figures added up. So muscle mass and bone mass added together gives you your lean mass. Now, the horror stories will tell you that Mounjaro causes muscle loss. It's bullshit. It doesn't cause muscle loss. Losing weight causes muscle loss, regardless of what method you use. Unfortunately, there's not a huge amount that you can... No, that's wrong. You can do something about it, but you will lose muscle mass. It's inevitable. What you can do, though, is minimise it. I weight train 2 to 3 times a week. I lift heavy. I do what I can to preserve as much muscle as I can. But it's inevitable. You are going to lose some. It's just about not losing huge amounts. What you don't want to be doing is losing loads and loads of muscle and just end up skinny fat. You want to be strong and healthy at the end of it. So it's not something is out of your control, but you will lose some muscle. So on that note, when I started on the Mounjaro, my muscle mass, according to my scales, again, not an accurate figure, was 92.8, which is actually quite a good muscle mass. I'm now at 87.8, which is £5. So of the £30 that I've lost, £5 of it is most likely muscle, or around that, which actually isn't a bad percentage. My bone mass at the time was £6 and it's now 5.6, so 0.4 of a pound. So you just add those two figures together, it gives you your lean mass. And my lean mass in total was 98.8. My lean mass now is 93.6. So a total loss in lean mass of 5.2. So that means, working it the opposite way around, I've lost about £25, give or take, of pure fat. Just think how much fat that is. That's a hell of a lot of fat. And that shows in my body fat percentage. You know, I've gone from 41 down to 32. It's nearly 10% of body fat. So I'm really pleased with that. The other one that I look at and measure quite closely is my visceral fat. My visceral fat was really high. It was at 14, which is at the high end on the scale. I don't actually know what the units are that they measure in. It just gives you a figure. So at the time when I started, it was 14. You know, I wish I'd have had these scales back at 15 stone, because my visceral fat must have been off the scale. It must have been dangerous at 15 stone. So I carry pretty much all of my weight on my stomach. I've got relatively thinner limbs, so my arms and my legs are quite thin. I don't like using that word, but my weight was all carried in the middle. So, and that's the dangerous fat, the ones that cushion your organs. You need a little bit of it, but you don't need the amount that I had. So my score was 14 on my visceral fat. Today, that's come down to 9, which is amazing. You know, that's 5 points or whatever the units is that it uses down. I think that healthy range is 7 to 8. So I've still got a little bit of that middle fat to lose, but it's all heading in the right direction. The other one that I'm keeping an eye on is my subcutaneous fat levels. Again, how accurate these are, because it's subjective, let's say. So don't look at the figure, look at the trend. My subcutaneous fat was at 36.5 when I started 6 months ago, and that's now down to 29.4. So that's really trending down. So that's a lovely one to see come down as well. One that I'm not so happy about, although it's still a positive, the scale gives you your biological age. And again, how accurate this is, no, I don't know. But when I started 6 months ago, and for reference, I am 56 years old. I don't like admitting I'm 56. I'm sure I'm still 26. Well, I'm 26 in my head anyway. Anyway, when I started, the scale said I was 63. And considering when I started, I was actually 55, because I've had a birthday since, so I've actually gone up a little bit. So it had actually put 8 years on me. Today, when I weighed in, it actually says I'm now 59. So it's still 3 years older than I actually am. But again, it's trending down. It's trending in the right direction. And pretty much that's all I can ask for now. My BMI, I know BMI is not an ideal. Again, I use it as a trend. I'm not fixed on that number. But it is what medical professions use at the moment. You know, it's the best estimate that we have for your height to weight ratio. If you're a bodybuilder and you know for a fact that your weight is muscle, then yeah, the BMI doesn't work. But for the average Joe, it does work. And it's a good scale to sort of just look at for trends. So at the moment, 26.5. I've still got a way to go, but I'm in the middle of that overweight range now. So what I want to do is get into the middle of the normal range. whatever normal is. So £30 down, and still, like I said, I reckon most likely about another 20 left to go. So I've still got a journey ahead of me. I'll get onto that again in a second. So as well as the scale, I also did my body measurements at the beginning. And obviously that's nice to see the tape measure going down. Always use your non-scale victories. So either the tape measure, your clothes fitting. If you're triggered by that number on the scale, don't use it. Use other methods. Look at your clothes, how things are fitting, how you're feeling in general. Stupid things like I had to buy a new watch strap because it was too small. No, sorry, I was too small for my watch strap. I'd got a medium originally, and now I've had to get a small, and I'm literally on the last loop of it already. My wrists are shrinking. It's silly little things like that that do make a difference. And yeah, your non-scale victories are massive. And in some cases better than what the number on the scale, because the scale doesn't move every single week. It doesn't go in the direction that you want it to all the time. You are not necessarily going to lose 2, 3, 4, 5 pounds like you've seen with other providers, with other vloggers. We're all different, and it's different for everybody. I have been losing quite slowly. My average has come out, I think it's £1.2 a week. So 6 months, £30. It's averaging around £5 a month, which is around £1 a week. And for me, because I'm in that second half, that's fine. It took me 4 years to get rid of the original 40 on my own, naturally, with just diet. So this is relatively fast, and I think also sustainable. I do worry slightly that some of the people that are losing huge amounts really fast. Now, don't get me wrong, they start a lot higher, so they've got a huge amount to lose. But if you don't change your diet and your lifestyle, and you're losing just because you're only eating one piece of pizza because you physically can't eat anymore, when you come off this or you hit your goal, whatever your plan is going forward, if you've not changed your lifestyle, you're just going to go back to eating the full pizza, and eventually you will put that weight back on. You have to change your lifestyle. It's the biggest thing that I've taken from this, is that you cannot continue. Yes, you can eat whatever, well, within reason, you can most likely eat whatever you like. As long as you're in a calorie deficit, you will lose weight. That's the science behind it. It's got nothing to do with the type of food that you're eating. If you're in a calorie deficit, you will lose weight. This medication will help you to eat in a calorie deficit. It reduces your hunger. It reduces the food noise, which is the main thing for most people, the food noise. And it stops you obsessing about food. But if you are continuing to eat junk, but just less of it, you will continue to eat junk 2 years down the line. And that will put your weight back on. It's brutal, I know, but you've got to use this time that you are on Mounjaro. Don't get me wrong, some people are going to be on for life. I still don't know what my end journey is. I really don't know. But you have got to look at that long term. If you've got a significant amount of weight to lose, then, it's not something you need to worry about at the beginning, but it needs to be there at the back of your head. You do need to look at your diet, your exercise, and you do need to look at the overall lifestyle, because if you don't change it, you'll be back here in another 2, 3, 4 years. It's brutally honest, and I'm quite aware of this, and I think most of us are. We've all yo-yo dieted. I don't think there's many people that are looking into this that have. Yes, there are people that just think, oh, I've just got £10 to lose, or I've got a holiday coming up, and I don't begrudge people from wanting to take it. I don't think this drug should be just for the morbidly obese of us. I think at the moment that's unfortunately the way it has to be because of the demand. But I do think in another five years or so, it will become more of the norm and accepted, and just a general weight loss tool for most. But like I said, if all you've got is £10 to lose and you don't change your diet and exercise, you'll be trying to lose that £10 again next year and the year after and the year after that. So, okay, off my soapbox. Right, measurements. Okay, I took the basic ones. The one that I didn't take, and I wish I had, was my actual stomach, because that's where I carried the majority. But when I started, I just took waist and hips and the bits around it. But right, so my chest measurements when I started was 112 centimetres. That has now come down to 96, so I've lost 16 centimetres off my chest, bust. My waist, which was huge, was 103. That's now down to 87. That's still quite big in comparison to the rest of me in that sense. So I'm still quite boxy in shape, let's say. But that's another 16 centimetres gone. My hips, I was 116 centimetres. That's now come down to 96. So that's 20 centimetres off my hips, which I suppose does include a little bit of that overhang. My arms, thighs and calves, now they were more slender, let's say. I didn't carry huge amounts on my arms and legs, although I have got excess and I now have the old bingo wings. Even though, the gym's working, I am getting to a little bit of muscle mass, but there are some jiggly bits there still. So my arm was 29 centimetres. That's now 27 centimetres, so a couple of centimetres off there. My thigh was 54, and that's down to 49 centimetres, so 5 centimetres off there. My calves were 34, now down to 32, so a couple of centimetres off my limbs. But the main chunk of it has come off my boobs, my waist and my hips, which is where I carry all my weight anyway. So significant amount still to go. They're still too big in that sense, but it's all heading in the right direction. So that's where I am 6 months on. I'm continuing. I'm not stopping. This is like, I don't know, my halfway point. I do expect to be losing weight for at least a year on this. That was my long-term goal when I first started, that I'd most likely be looking at about a year. But what I am doing, and if you watch last week's vlog, I am taking a bit of a break, but I'm not stopping the Mounjaro. I'm going to continue, but I want to try and shift my focus a little bit more into not so much losing numbers, but more body composition. So I am just about to go on holiday, and if I haven't mentioned it before, I'm on holiday next week. I go out on Tuesday, and I need a holiday now. But so when I come back from my holiday, I will be looking at upping my protein again. Protein's a little hit and miss. I do try and aim for about 100 grams. Last week, I've managed to get 120 in every day, which has been really good. But it's a struggle. It's difficult to get in, and you have to be sort of mindful about it. And if you fancy whatever you fancy, you've got to prioritise that protein first. And especially at the beginning, it can be difficult to eat it. My appetite is really good now. I can eat 3 meals, plenty of good calories. I still stay within my deficit, but I'm not struggling to eat. The food noise has still gone. I don't think about food. I have to plan my meals. I have to make sure that I know what I'm going to have for breakfast, dinner and tea. I've got myself into a routine, but I'm not snacking. I don't have that constant, what's in the cupboard, whether fancy a piece of cake or biscuits or chocolate or crisps. It's just still not there. So from that point of view, it's still working. My appetite is just better. I'm hungry at meal times and I eat a good sized meal, stay roughly within my deficit, and then that satisfies me. I'm no longer hungry, and then I wait for the next meal. And for me, that's the way I want it. I don't want the massive suppression. I don't want to be not wanting to eat or feeling sick all the time, because side effect wise, I really don't get any. Right at the very beginning, I got a few headaches, and dry mouth I think was really big at the very beginning, but now nothing. I don't have any gastric symptoms whatsoever. Realistically, headaches, dry mouth, I drink as much water as I possibly can. I stick to my 2 litres, but I don't have any side effects. And I put that down to eating correctly more so than the medication. I think the medication gets blamed. Oh, Mounjaro causes this, it causes this, it causes that. No, 9 times out of 10, it's the food that you are putting in your stomach that causes it. Sulfur burps is down to the food being sat in your stomach for longer than it should be, and then it starts fermenting and all sorts of issues go on. But you need to work out what your trigger foods are. What foods is it that maybe you do need to cut out of your diet? I'm an advocate for eating a full diet. You should never be cutting anything out. But if you find that after a particular meal, the following day you're getting those gastric issues, then you need to be looking at what's in that meal as opposed to it's the Mounjaro. So just bear that in mind. You are responsible for what goes in your mouth still. And a lot of the issues are caused by what you're eating. Right, yeah, again, going forward. So I'm taking a break. I'm on holiday next week. I am still taking my Mounjaro. I'm still sticking to my 7.5. I've decided to take it. I fly on Tuesday afternoon, so I am going to take it Tuesday morning before I go. So it'll be in my system for the whole week that I'm on holiday. So hopefully that will stop me from the snacking, the late snacking. But I'm all inclusive. I do plan on eating and drinking what I want, and hopefully having the Mounjaro in my system will curb that what I want. But we'll see. I was planning on running a book to see how much weight I put on. I will be weighing on the Wednesday when I get back. Now I know it, water weight and everything else will be flying, but I'm just curious as to how much I will put on, and then I'll do an official weigh on the Sunday once I've been back for a few days and flushed out my system a little bit and got some water on board. But it'll be interesting to see how much it does affect me and how quickly I can get that back to where I was. And then after that, it's pretty much rinse and repeat. So I said I am planning on staying on the 7.5. I don't want to be going up. I want to up my calories and start concentrating on building more muscle. So I'm not too worried about the number on the scale coming down. I want to do that more body composition for at least a couple of months over the summer. Hopefully be able to build a little bit of muscle, and then maybe going into the autumn I'll look again at sort of kick-starting the fat loss process and the diet process again, and maybe look at lowering my calories. But I think and over the 4 years that I lost the other weight as well, I suffer a lot with diet fatigue, as well as just fatigue in general. And I do think you get to a point when you're bored, you're sick and tired of the diet, and it becomes a chore. And I think it's becoming a chore for me at the moment. So I just want to up my calories a little bit, give myself a little bit of grace, and just wait until I'm ready to adjust again. Hopefully that won't mean that I'll put on weight, but I am prepared if I do put on a couple of pounds. I think there's most likely a cut off of that couple of pounds. But if it does start to creep up, then I am going to have to reconsider my options. But at the moment, that's what I want to do. So that's it. I will not be bringing you a vlog next Sunday because I'll be in a bar somewhere in Mallorca. I'm not quite sure where, but I will definitely be in a bar. I will vlog some of my food and possibly a few cocktails while I'm out there, and I'll pop those in some sort of compilation for my holiday. It's holiday season. A lot of people are wondering what to do with it, so hopefully that will be helpful to some. But it's a holiday. Give yourself some grace. You've got to enjoy this journey. This is not supposed to be a hard slog. You have to want to do it, but you also need to give yourself, as I say, a treat. I don't like to use the term treats or rewards, but you've got to give yourself some grace occasionally and enjoy yourself. And living on minimal calories and not allowing yourself the odd treat. That, don't get me wrong, normal skinny people, people that eat normally still eat cake. It's not just us fatties that eat cake, but it's moderation, isn't it? So I will pop together some form of compilation from the holiday, but next Sunday won't be a vlog. The following Sunday, once I'm back to some normality, then I will start again, and hopefully not have to lose too many pounds that I've put on from the holiday, but we'll see. Right, and on that note, I'm going to leave you to it. Please, if you have any questions, comments, do the usual, pop them in the box. I get back to everybody where I can. If I haven't got back to you, please just pop it back in again, because occasionally messages do go astray. And again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider it. It doesn't cost anything. This channel is really growing now, and I am heading, I don't like saying it out loud, but heading towards my 1,000 subscribers. So we would really love if this is something that can be helpful, and especially the holiday vlog. I think it's that season. Click the subscribe, ring the bell, let me know in the comments that you've subscribed and what your journey is. I love hearing other people's journey. So please tell me, are you starting? Have you been on it for a while? Are you like me? You're, close to your goal in that sense, and sort of wondering what the next point is. Because I think it's something for consideration. I'm not too worried about it just yet. I think maybe another couple of months, and then that's something that I'm going to have to take into a bit more of a considered consideration. But right now, I'm happy with the way it's going. Right, okay, I've been coming up to 40 minutes, and I know I can waffle, but enjoy your week. I'd like to say I'll be thinking about you whilst I'm off, but I'm having a week off, and I'm going to go and enjoy myself. So I'm going to go and pack my suitcase. Right, I'll catch you all on the other side of Mallorca, and you just have a really good week, and hopefully, fingers crossed for you, the weather stays nice over here. But we're heading into summer now. Let's enjoy it. Right, I'll speak to you all in 2 weeks. Bye for now.